let's get to the part where James Smart goes all political as he analyzes the issues surrounding the Orange Party, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely. And as we had set it up before, we'll be joined a bit later as and when Blind MP Ababu Namwamba gets to traffic, he'll join us. But let's start from where we should have started. Mheshimiwa, we covered you extensively in the last month or so. And this conversation is about how the state of affairs, how we run the state of affairs. Are you happy with how we covered you in the last month to the botched elections?
I think, first of all, James, let me start by saying we are grateful that the ODM elections that were supposed to be were very much extensively covered, and there was a lot of anticipation from the whole country, not just for the ODM supporters, but from other political parties to see how things can be done. Because you must realize that as a democracy and a growing democracy, there's still a lot that Kenyans need to learn from political parties that are supposed to be maturing, that are supposed to be moving away, from tribal groupings, from regional groupings, into truly national political parties that are supposed to help Kenyans realize their dream, as it was envisioned in the new constitution, that Kenya shall be a multi-party state. And this is where the sovereignty of people was going to be practiced. But unfortunately, what happened to us has been a big challenge. We have taken it as a challenge, and we are willing to soldier on to make sure that, we are able to actually realize what we set out to do. It was disappointing for some of us who really campaigned so hard, to be able to have positions and only to end up like that, because campaigns are not cheap, as we realize, moving around the whole country, meeting all these delegates, and then finally not realizing that dream. But as I said, it's only people who don't make mistakes that don't learn at all. We have made our mistakes, and I'm sure from those mistakes we'll be able to learn and move forward.
Martin, did we build these ODM elections, or if you like, the poll, as something that the country was demonstrating democracy, if you like, and did we build a bubble? I mean, for ODM?
I don't think so, because ODM is within the larger context of the coalition government, COD, is on the other side is the official opposition, and being the official opposition, and maybe ODM being, if you say, a senior partner within the COD coalition, it's important that we understand that ODM has networks all over the country, and it's not a bubble that we built, because it is a serious party. It's a serious movement from the times of when they were running the previous elections, and you can realize that with the kind of support that they had throughout the country, definitely these elections meant a lot, and the country needed to know which way forward are they moving. So I think as journalists, we were bound, and it's our obligation to be able to put Kenyans abreast in terms of how the political situation is moving in the country, and that was big news for us.
But a serious party that had networks across the country that was unable to do a poll.
Unable to do a poll is another story altogether. Mheshimiwa will tell you, there have been various theories whether that poll was meant to be or it was not to be. So those are their own politics, which I think you can find out from him. But our obligation was to present the situation as it is.
As it is. Yeah. Mheshimiwa, did you arrange this botched, elections? Your camp was accused to be in the know.
James, I don't think that is the correct position, because you must realize that we really went out to campaign, and campaigns are not easy. They are both energy sapping, both mental resources, financial, and you cannot be doing all that when you know all along that there's not going to be an election. So definitely all of us expected that there was going to be an election. And that's why we went out to campaign up to the last day, and as I said earlier, expecting that everything will go according to the plans. And you remember that we had even assured the country that we really want to show how things are done. But what happened, as I said, now we have got a team that is trying to look into the issues that really led into that botched kind of elections. And we don't want to preempt you. Of course, there are a lot of speculations, as you're saying. Were you aware, or was this just planned to happen? I wouldn't be able to.
In fact, those people who disturbed the elections were dressed like you, men in black.
You can even see Martin's.
As much as it may
not look black, even yours.
I wore a brown.
Yeah, even yours looks black.
There's a distinction.
No, I wouldn't know that, to be honest with you. All of us thought that the so-called men in black were security, teams just to help in the process of elections.
And some of those, it's 14 days later. Look at those pictures in the last 2 weeks. Can I just say that you've seen
like
some of these fellows?
You can always say that in a chaotic situation, you will not be able to know who is exactly doing what. But some of those faces, as you put it correctly, are very familiar faces within the ODM circles. And you must also realize that there was no assault on anybody as far as I know. Maybe it was just the boxes that were attacked and they were thrown out. So we really need to understand exactly what happened. Because as I said, it was disappointing for some of us to really spend almost 60 days out there campaigning, and then finally, these things comes to what it came to. So it is not good for an ODM member or even those who are seeking leadership. But as I said, we are taking that as a challenge. We want to see, to get to the bottom of things, that exactly what happened. And once we get to that bottom line of what happened, we need to move forward. Because I think, as Martin was trying to put to you, this party as a movement, carries aspirations of so many other Kenyans, not just ourselves as leaders. We could be just representing the other Kenyans, but that does not mean that we now monopolize the party. The party belongs to the people. And those who are there as delegates who are just supposed to be representing millions of others who are not able to maybe attend Kasarani. And at this point in time, I don't want to speculate. Let us get to the bottom of things and find out exactly what happened. Was it the secretariat? Were these external factors that were involved? Or were these just, boys who just came in with intention to disrupt? Those are issues that can best be answered when we get to the bottom of the thing.
Martin, what bothers you about this election, about how ODM has gone about conducting their business up to this point, up to the watched elections?
Well, what I would say, I have been able to interact and cover a lot of these issues to do with politics. And believe you me, Smart, what Mheshimiwa is saying, they're going to get to the root of this matter, is just an issue, is a story. Yeah. It's just a matter of buying time.
Cosmetic.
They will somehow, it's the world, I don't think I can blame them. It's the world over. You will never find democracy in political parties that you can take to the bank. Never. Every election that that is planned within a political party has to have consensus. If that consensus is not there, that election will not be held. It's not just in ODM. It will happen in Wiper. It will happen in TNA. It will happen everywhere. There has to be some sort of consensus in terms of how you move. History can bear us right. You remember the time of the merger between LDP and KANU. And when we coined this thing of Kasarani is Kisirani, people had to give way so that a certain lineup could be put in. So that is the way political parties go. So you can understand that after all this that has had happened, then you have all the same people who are fighting for the same seats have been put on one table. And they've been locked into a room, and the party leader has taken off and wants them to, when he comes back, there's white smoke that is going to come out of that. Definitely that is the way it will go, because they have to get to a consensus, and then if you have to bring up the delegates again, they will have to have a consensus. That's how political parties behave. So I do not understand why people are getting so shocked. I wasn't surprised, in what happened. Because I've been in this game, and I understand.
Is painting a picture of shock. And you're sitting there and there's absolutely
that I can paint to you.
Yeah. And started by telling us stories.
I think what happens is that sometimes, people get used to doing things in a certain way. and they believe that's the normal way of doing things. But we also know that, you know, what sometimes is universally accepted as truth may not necessarily be the best. And when ODM set itself out to try and maybe promote the kind of competition, and where we were saying, you know, this is a friendly match, we were also just testing waters beyond what we'll be saying, like what Martin is saying, just directly going in there and people say you are nominated, you have no legitimacy, you people just locked yourselves in the room and you know, you came up with this leadership, you don't have the mandate of the party members to be able to do this. That also happens. But as I said, we are not a party that is operating in a vacuum. We have tried that route, and we believe that whatever outcome that is going to come from the reports that are going to be submitted, as much as Martin does not believe in them, will be able to tell us, okay, you are too adventurous, that you should not have gone that route in the first place. Maybe you should have tried to build more consensus. You should not have come up with groupings, because this issue of groupings was a major challenge to some of us, where we said, you know, you need gender in the party according to our constitution, both the national constitution and the party constitution. How are you going to achieve this gender, threshold if you're just saying it's going to be free for all? You need regional balancing. How do you achieve regional balancing if you just say it's free for all? So those were challenges that we also faced as candidates, that in one way or another, as much as we're going for the popular vote, they'll reach a point that you'll need to build some form of consensus. So it was there in our minds, but how to go about that in a friendly way, in a manner that does not cause so much acrimony, we were yet to believe that we could achieve that in Kasarani, but I think, as Martin puts it, we might have been a little bit much more adventurous than maybe what was expected.
Right. I'll be taking your calls, and that is the number on your screen. You can call anytime and remember to interrupt this conversation and ask Mheshimiwa and join the conversation in the newsroom. But Mheshimiwa, let me put it to you this way. Deputy President William Ruto, in reacting to debacle, if you like, saying, you know, these fellows cannot organize an election or party, political party.
But you must also realize that of all these parties, it is only ODM that has done grassroots elections in 2011. It is only that at the national level we had not filled up those positions. You remember when Henry Kosgei and even the deputy president, who was also the deputy party leader in ODM, you must remember that it was also through some form of consensus at that time, and these people were just nominated and ratified by the NDC. And that's why sometimes we keep on saying that, you know, a party is also more or less like a club, and you must really be able to embrace certain principles, certain element of trust on what exactly your leadership should be. But in our case this time, as I said, we were also trying to experiment and say, can we have that universal suffrage where members are able to vote in their leaders? Remember that one of the most contentious issues in ODM has been party nominations when it comes to elections, where a lot of people complain that, you know, either the nominations are not done fairly, they have not been done, either some people are selected. But all this is coming from the background that as a party that has been fighting about democracy, equality, I mean, I think Martin said this has been a movement. There are certain principles that we hold, but do we have the infrastructure that is required for us to realize that? It is only now that we have started funding political parties through the Political Parties Act. I think even the first batch of money has not been disbursed. It has always been either through some contribution of members, but even these members' contribution, what you would call the ordinary members of Magida, who are supposed to be the bulk of the members, even to pay that 100 shillings for the party membership, you find we do this thing around election time, and it's either politicians who are buying these cards in bulk and distributing them. So these are challenges in terms of growing an institution, growing political parties that we have. And we are saying, despite those challenges, we are trying to make attempts to make sure that we are able to do things the way they are supposed to be done. Because how else do you represent people when you don't have the mandate from the people? That is the question.
That's a good question. Martin, when we come back, I want us to take Mheshimiwa on task on how they've been giving IBC ECK sleepless nights on organizing elections. and they could not organize one for themselves. That is after the break. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom. In studio with me is fellow Member of Parliament, Otuoma, and my colleague, Senior Martin Mutua. We're discussing ODM and matters surrounding ODM and the elections and going forward, and politics and democracy. You can call us on the numbers on the screen now. Let's start off with your phone calls. Do I have Douglas from Resam? Douglas, good morning.
Yes, Mark, good morning.
Morning, sir.
How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. What's your contribution this morning, Douglas?
Mark.
Yes.
There's something I want to put across to Kenyans.
Yes, Douglas.
What happened at Kasarani was very disappointing. And ODM and Honorable Raila Odinga must understand something. The reason why Raila Odinga has never been the president of the Republic of Kenya is not because the elections were stolen from him. It's because he gave it away. There's a difference between agitation and leadership. Mr. Raila Odinga is a good strategist. He's a great mobilizer. But where leadership is concerned, he's very wanting. I'll give a case in point of Mr. Moi, the former president. He said Kanu would rule for 100 years. How did Mr. Moi achieve that? He groomed people beneath him. From Uhuru Kenyatta to the Mudavadis, to Rutos, to the rest. Who has Raila Odinga groomed? He has made too much about himself. And this is why Paul Mute said, this is a gentleman who has the genes of Adolf Hitler. When the ODM elections were about to be done, the whole country was watching. You saw the hope. People expected to see change. But what they've done, they've taken themselves to Calvary. They've nailed themselves to the cross. And honestly speaking, as a Kenyan, I'm very disappointed.
All right. Douglas, thank you very much for coming down on the call online. Well, we're going to get to those calls. But Mheshimiwa, that's just one of the phone calls, just a filler on what when someone feels, disappointment. This was built, as we started saying, the whole country was watching. Everyone was watching. And I like to point to you that, not even your supporters, up to this particular point, feel that what happened on Friday, that Friday, not only brought down the profile of the party leader, and even if you walk away from these issues, you have a lot to prove to Kenyans as a party.
I think, as I have said earlier, none of us anticipated that. And as I have also put it, even as a candidate, it was very disappointing after, as I said, spending a lot of energy, time, and resources campaigning among the delegates that they're going to have a free choice. But again, when we look at what happened in Kasarani, it has been a big challenge for us, a very, very big challenge. Because today, if we just take that and say this was Raila Amolo's, failing, then we will not be seeing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is to look at what issues really emerged. And I think Martin has also put it correctly, that maybe we were being too adventurous in the way we were conducting our party elections. Were we really ready for that? What happened? Where did these people come from? Was this thing brewing and we never saw it until that very morning? Those are the issues we need to get deep into and find out that this is where we really failed from the word go. If the place was secured, how come nobody was attacked? It was just the ballot papers that were attacked. Where were these registers when Honorable Maura started complaining about the voters' registers? These are issues that we need to look into, and those are institutional issues. And you cannot just attribute it to the leader, because sometimes as a leader you work through people, and people can let you down because you cannot be an expert. And I said it even before. You cannot be IBC, you cannot be the party leader, the secretary general, the organizing secretary, at the same time the secretariat. So let us get to the bottom of this, and it will be a lesson. Because don't forget that it is only the ODM party in the Republic of Kenya that was attempting to do this kind of thing, to take democracy to the people. And if we met obstacles, let's face them as challenges, and let's see what lessons we can learn from that. And I would challenge other parties to try and also maybe just have internal democracy the way ODM has had it. Then we can have some parameters to say, yes, you failed here. Because when there's something wrong in terms of the way you are trying to achieve democracy, to me, I would take it as a challenge and not as a failure on the leader.
Let's go back to the phone because, Martin, these are issues that you will have to come back to. But good morning, David.
Morning, James.
Yes. What's your contribution this morning, David?
What I wanted to tell the Mheshimiwa Otuoma, as a party, we were going for the national elections before the party had done a recruitment at the grassroots. That is the same as putting the cart before the horse. I mean, KANU used to have a recruitment drive before they would go to electing national officials. Now, one thing that Otuoma and ODM has done is to disappoint Kenyans. It was a big disappointment for those of us who have, in the past two elections, supported ODM. And until they do the right thing first, which is to actually recruit party members so that we know how many members does ODM have in the country, and then grassroots elections, which would eventually lead to national elections.
David,
yeah?
If I could just interrupt you, are you a member of ODM?
I vote for ODM, but I've never so much as been recruited.
You've never been recruited. So why do you vote for them, David?
You see, membership is through recruitment. Membership is not just going at the election.
So David, what is that one thing that drives you to ODM? Why do you feel you support them?
The purported philosophy that they are democratic. But when they could not, when they were not honest this time around, when they wanted to do the elections, most of us were disappointed. And until we do a credible election, I'm sorry, going into the next election,
will you vote for them?
Disappointing.
Will you still vote for them?
Hello?
Will you still vote for them, David?
I will not.
You will not?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's one vote you've lost.
Not really. I want to say that I share David's frustration. And David maybe didn't put to you correctly. A party has got party members and we have got party supporters. And sometimes we don't distinguish between those two, that who is a member of the party and who are supporters of the party, who may not necessarily be members, but they support the party. And I believe David belongs to that category of supporters. But lost. I would still want to believe that we are going to talk to him and make sure that we address some of the issues that he's bringing about. And it is those issues actually that David is talking about that made some of us offer ourselves for leadership in the party. And
the question that it keeps coming back and will hammer it, until the cows come back home, is that you give ECK a lot of grief in 2008 for conducting what was called a shambolic elections.
Yeah.
That 2013, you went to the Supreme Court and said these elections cannot even come to the threshold of organizing an election. You had 2,000 members, Mheshimiwa, right? To just have an afternoon, one after the other, to put a ballot and cast it on the box. You could not even organize that. How are you going to come in 2017? Right? Or just going forward until Kenyans that IBC cannot organize an election?
Yeah, I think, James, we have all owned up and said that what happened in Kasarani was very disappointing. And we would like to get to the bottom as to why it really happened.
So you've forgiven IBC? You've forgiven IBC?
No, we haven't forgiven IBC.
But
one mistake does not correct another one. The virtue that ODM made a mistake does not absolve IBC from being above board. All we are trying to say is that we have faced those challenges as leaders in this party. We cannot run away from that. We must be prepared to face it and find a solution. And this solution is what we are trying to say. is that we say that the party must have some internal mechanism to go to the bottom and tell members, this is where we failed you. And after failing you, this is what we are going to put in place to make sure that this does not happen. We are not just going to kill the party because either the secretariat or because of certain lapses, people came in and disrupted the elections. We are also not operating in a vacuum. And that's why I'm saying that we cannot just look internally. We must also look externally.
Martin, help me in this conversation, Martin.
I just wanted to ask us, Mheshimiwa, knowing that they were going into an election which had very high stakes, why did they not entrust it into a credible body that would have really been able to manage this kind of polls? Because, as you know, realize, you are electing national officials. You are not electing branch or ward officials. And the fact that the Secretariat itself has never handled a matter of this magnitude, why was it not prudent for even to enlist? Previously, you have even been asking the Electoral Commission, to come in and do party polls, and that is acceptable. That has happened before. Why was the IEBC not taken into?
I think, Martin, what I'm trying to say, I was not responsible for organizing the elections, but I'm talking as a leader of ODM that we are now faced with this challenge. We must get to the bottom and get correctional measures. Let me tell you one thing. You remember there was a time I was Minister for Sports, and we could not get either the Kenya football elections or done and all these problems that we were facing. And I brought in IBC. I even looked for external sources of funds so that this process could be done independently of any other. And we got the outcome. That is what they decided, and everybody accepted those kind of outcomes. When it comes to ODM, we as leaders or people who are aspiring for even higher leadership in the party, we are not refusing that the party has challenges. We were assured by the Secretariat before the elections. They came to us and assured us that this is what we have planned. But what they planned didn't happen as they had assured us. And that's why now we are also asking and begging for questions. We gave you trust. We entrusted you. We gave you responsibility. You told us you are going to hire security. There was even a possibility of outsourcing those security issues. You told us you'll be ready for any elections, be it through secret ballot or through acclamation, whatever method that was going to be there. We said, first of all, the place must be secured, and that's why we went to Kasarani, because it has got all these security measures to make sure that it's only the required delegates that go through. We also said that since we did the grassroots elections, David there when he spoke, he said we had not done grassroots elections, but we did grassroots elections in 2011. The only things that we didn't do was the national election. So we were trying to complete that process because you do elections after every 5 years. So the grassroots offices were there. But don't forget that in 2013, we went for the national elections. And some of our members, including the deputy president, who was a member of ODM, they left the party. So definitely there were areas where we needed to make sure that those positions are filled up. And that process was supposed to be done by the Secretariat. This is where we are begging for questions. In areas where ODM maybe lost quite a number of party members or delegates, how did you harmonize this? Did you just go and pick people and say these are the officials of the party, or was there a process? Those are the questions that we are begging and asking for answers. If you look, the largest support, the largest number of delegates for ODM is Rift Valley, followed by Central, followed by Eastern. That is the bulk. It's not the way some people have been thinking that ODM is a Nyanza party or ODM is a coastal area.
Let's bring in Tom to this conversation. Good morning, Tom. I think you just lost Tom. He was, hanging on to get that point. Yeah, and probably we'll get back to the point.
So, what I was just trying to bring to the fore is that all these issues about who are the really genuine delegates of ODM, are they the people who are really in Kasarani? As leaders in ODM, it is the Secretariat that can give us the answers to say, yes, this was the process. How come, Honorable Otuoma, you are supposed to be a delegate from Busia? How come your name was missing? Ampuri, who is part of the few elected members of parliament from Eastern, you remember his name was missing? As a member of parliament, his delegates were not there, and that was only being learnt that morning. Now, those are the things we are saying. Unless we probe and find out what happened, we may not be able to answer that.
So whom do we put or where does the buck stops? If it's not on the party leader, does it stop with Nyong'o, who heads the secretariat and his entire secretariat? Or where does the
someone must be
That's what we are saying. Once the probe comes in, it will tell us where does the buck stop. If the secretariat says we did our job up to here, and maybe the party leader failed us in this manner, then the buck will stop with the party leader. If it says we entrusted you with this, but you have failed us as a secretariat, then it will also stop there. If it says that it is you competitors who played some monkey tricks around here, then it will also stop with those who are responsible for that. But at this point in time, trying just to speculate in a vacuum, we will not be helping the situation.
But definitely the elections were organized. There are people who are in charge of organizing those polls.
Yes.
And the secretariat was in charge.
Yes.
The secretariat is headed by somebody.
Yes.
And why are we skirting around these issues when there is a person and people who are in charge of the secretariat who are organizing the polls and assured you, the candidates, that everything is fine, yet things never went fine? It means they did not organize. Either they were part of the problem or they're the ones who organized the chaos.
I think that's one thing that we have said. I, as a candidate, that was the first place I pointed my finger to say that, you remember when we issued a press statement, we said the secretariat must be disbanded, the ODM election board must be probed to find out how come one of the, maybe the commissioners was holding a selected list. Is that the way you carry out democracy? Were we voting for lists or were we voting for individuals? Those are the challenges that are there.
All right,
but at the same time,
let's go to the line and just get a few questions for you as we try to wind down this conversation. Kibet, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, Kibet. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah. Are you an ODM member?
No, I'm not. Huh?
What is your concern this morning, Kibet?
Okay, my concern is that Raila needs to take care of this ODM party, because according to me, he's the one who has been complaining about democracy. He's the one who has been complaining about IBC. So according to me, that was a very good chance for him to showcase how democracy is supposed to be applied. Secondly, he should have taken that chance to prove IBC role, maybe by deploying the register, deploying technology, showing how it can work. So that to a lot of people, when he talks about democracy, when he talks about free and fair elections, people can take him seriously. Not taking this thing like if it is a joke, but I can tell you this has taken a very huge toll on the ODM party. So for me, I think he should, every time he does these things, he should take them seriously. If he wants to have another serious shot at the presidency. I voted for him in 2007, but I didn't vote for him in 2013. So maybe I'm one of those people who have been watching him closely. I've been a supporter. I wasn't this time out. And the way he pulls out of this thing is going to determine.
So Kibet, I'm curious to find out, do you vote for Raila because of ODM, or why do you vote for him?
Okay, in 2007,
yes,
I voted for him because of the way he had, the way he had demonstrated that he had fought for freedom. Yeah, and how I expected that if we had a president like him, we are going to have like something of a social democracy. But what we have seen of late doesn't demonstrate that. What we saw in Kasarani.
Okay, okay, Kibet, thank you very much. Those are the thoughts. Otuoma. And as we continue this discussion, I mean, we're going to see a trend. Let's say the trend.
Yeah.
Losing supporters along the way, and people will say, listen, the things that you talk about every single day and shouting from the mountaintop, we believe in democracy. We are the most democratic party. We want freedom and association and what police to choose. We saw a complete opposite of that. And the frustration of people is that every time we hear leaders like you speak, in opening up the party organs for us and say, we need to find out, there's a probe. It's neither here nor there. We're not hearing a consistent message that says, this happened, these are the steps, and this is how we move on. That is the frustration that your supporters and Kenyans
and I think I continuously still continue to identify with them in that frustration. But I also know that as a leader, sometimes things are not just what they appear on the surface. Unless you get to the bottom of the problem, you may not really be able to bring out what is the real problem. And just looking at the botched election, and as I put it to you, nobody would have been spending the kind of resources we spent when we knew that that was going to be the outcome. The party itself spent over 30 million shillings just to plan for that. And you must remember, this party didn't have that money. We had to fundraise as members of that party. We contributed money to make sure that we have got this election. Delegates are brought in Nairobi, but it ended up the way it is.
It's possible. It's not far-fetched to think that this could have been just a process. It was a huge smooth scheme that it was the money.
But why should we do that in the first place? Because
the theory that has been put out is that the other side was winning the election.
Not necessarily. Let me tell you. That is the theories that are put out. But if we get to the bottom of the problem, then we will be able to know why did this happen like this. Because whether we like it.
One final phone call. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name and what's your concern this morning?
This is Alfred. I'm calling from Nairobi.
From where?
Yes, I just want to tell Mheshimiwa that Eda is not really part of the audience. He was just concerned. Because not audience know very well those young people who disorganized us in Kasarani. They are people who have known in audience circle. They are the youth who have been heckling people in front of audience house or orange house. And the second is that it is good that it not take place. Because we will have left running a divided house. Because we were two teams. We were Team Ababu and Team Zani. And it was so clear that one team was going to take everything, and the other team would have felt isolated. So I still believe that
All right, we lost Alfred there, but let's bring this to conclusion, Martin.
Yep, I think now maybe Mheshimiwa needs to tell us. They have had all this kind of mess that has taken place. How do they expect to come out of the ashes and be able now to win back the supporters that we're hearing, all of them scattered? So that is the big challenge. It's not who is going to get what seat or who is not going to get which seat. It's how you're going to come out of these ashes and convince Kenyans that you are still within the political radar and you can be able to move the country forward with maybe as an alternative government. So that is a thing I would want to know how you intend to get out of that.
I think one of the ways that we intend to get out of these issues, exactly the mechanisms that we have put in place to try and make the members understand that this is exactly what happened in Kasarani, and those who are responsible, this is the remedial measures that we have put in place. And if members will feel that whatever has been put out there to them honestly, that this is what happened, I believe that Kenyans are very forgiving people. They will be able to look at it and say, yes, let's move forward. This was a challenge. This is a wake-up call to us. And if there's somebody who was responsible for that, I'm sure also action will be taken. And I tend to believe as party members, they have a right to take action, because this was a big shame, not only just to the party, but to the process of democracy in this country, especially for a party or a grouping of people who have been championing for democracy and human rights and all that. It was a very big shame. All of us accept that that is not the way things should have gone. And I tend to think that whoever will come out, it will be the responsibility of members to do whatever they want to do in terms of what remedial measures they want to take. If they say today we want to overhaul the whole leadership in the party, it will be up to them. The party is theirs. They have got that mandate to do that. If they believe we should call another MDC and have people reconcile and move forward, it will be up to them. Because don't forget even now.
Are you ready to give up your seat, your political ambition, to run for that seat for the good of the party?
Definitely, if members would say that, Honorable Otuoma, you are not the right person, or at this particular time we think let's give this opportunity to somebody else, we'll be able to do that. Because if you subject yourself to an election, You must always know you can either get it or not get it. That is the bottom line. It is you who have subjected yourself out there. So you cannot go out there and just expect that you will get things the way you want. I've been through 2 elections in Funyula, 2007 and 2013. And when you subject yourself, it is the people to decide. Otherwise, then you should look for something else that is not competition. In competition, you believe you can either win or lose, and you must respect that outcome that comes out. So today, if my standing for chairmanship of ODM is not going to add any value to ODM, I'll be willing to say I can play another role. If today I feel that my standing for ODM is going to be acrimonious, then I should do something else. But it will also be wrong for you to stop anybody from participating in a process. And that's why even when you look at, let's say you say Team Zani or Team Abab, what is so acrimonious about Zani? She's just a lady who is an ODM member. She applied, they advertised, and she put her name there, and it was up to members to decide. So you cannot just stop somebody because there's a group of people who says this or there's a group. That is not democracy. Democracy is that let me put myself out there, let the members decide. So I don't see, this thing was being blown out of proportion for apparent reason. I think that's why we are saying we need to understand what are these external forces that were coming.
That Mheshimiwa is democracy on trial.
There is no way we could have blown anything out of proportion.
Mheshimiwa is this opportunity to accuse us.
No.
And people invading a poll. How would we have reported it differently?
Yeah, no, reporting was quite okay. But you know, for somebody to say Team Zani and Team Mbab, I don't see why that should bring so much acrimony in ODM. These are just individuals who are also just seeking positions, like any other person who's seeking position. But I tend to believe that we are going to probe and find out if there were some external forces that really wanted this
democracy.
Even the team that has been put in place, there is no timeline in terms of
it can be indefinite.
Absolutely, that's what I was telling you. This is also a way of buying time. It's a tactical move that he knows Kenyans are forgiving, and we can forget very easily.
Forget. But you know, even yourself, if today there's some threat on your home, you know, you don't just sit there like that. You must bring in some reinforcement. You either put burglar proof or you try to do something as you try to find a permanent solution. So ODM cannot just sit idle and say, you know, we have put our chests out there, we have been hit, we are still willing to be hit. We must retreat and take stock and prepare properly. So there's nothing wrong by doing that.
Let's bring in Joy on this conversation.
You're saying retreat and take stock, but isn't what happened at the ODM elections reflective of what is happening within the party?
I don't tend to think so, because you must realize that what was happening in Nyanza are completely different dynamics. What was happening in Coast are completely different dynamics. And it is just unfortunate that those situations coincided with the party elections. And you cannot rule out maybe certain people behaving in certain manner, some trying to feel like they're hitting back, some thinking that that was the best way to express their frustration. But as I said, once you see that, you must be able to pull back and take stock, and then you can move forward. Because we didn't want issues that maybe were already ongoing in Nyanza to come and influence outcomes in ODM, or what was already happening in Coast to come in and you know, completely influence the way elections are carried out in the party. And that's why I say that it is good to move back and take stock. But that does not give excuse for what happened in Kasarani, because if we knew that those were the real factors, we should have maybe held back a bit earlier. And you remember there were some members who were saying, let's hold back a bit, let's do this. Maybe they knew something more than what we knew. And I tend to believe that when the probe is going on, some of us are going to go there and also pose some of these questions. Because as we went around the country campaigning, we were also picking up certain feelers of exactly what was happening that had nothing to do with the elections, but was definitely going to affect the elections. But we could not expect that that is what could cause the kind of chaos that we saw in Kasarani.
Right.
So we'll cross that line, and I'm sure we'll have opportunity to even come here and respond to some of these questions when that time comes.
Right, and Martin Mutua did mention that, you know, there's no political party that is democratic. And if you look at the Orange Dream, we've seen a number of people breaking away, including the Deputy President, including Najib Balala. And when you look at the future of ODM, do we see a same scenario of big names leaving the party?
You must realize that Kenya is such a diverse society, and one of the reasons we wanted to do the elections, especially according to me, was that there has been a move. There has been a move to either, support more regional parties, and that's why you are hearing certain groupings saying we need a Coast party, we need a Luya party, ODM is a Luo party, and yet if you look even in Kenya today, ODM is the largest single entity that embraces the diversity that is Kenyan society. So to manage that diversity definitely poses more challenges to ODM as a party than it would pose for TNA or URP, which, the bulk of their support could be either coming just from a certain region, and maybe you are just dealing with regional issues. But today, Coast region may be having issues as a region, but you must manage those issues within the context of ODM being almost a national party, and maybe the coastal issues are just regional issues which are part of ODM. They may not absolutely now just be a completely ODM affair. So those are some of the challenges that we are facing as a party, and that will come as parties grow, as parties move from being tribal parties or regional parties. Those challenges, how we manage them, are going to be part and parcel of our society as a country.
Right. All right, so it's going back to the drawing board and taking stock.
Definitely we need to do that.
Let's look at some of the tweets that are coming through. We're having one coming in from Tela Abala, who is saying what happened was caused by hooligans who aren't party officials. And Abongo Tobias is saying exactly. There is conflict of interest within the party, and it has succeeded in dividing the party.
Absolutely. Mheshimiwa, thank you very much for making time to talk to us. Martin, for putting the right questions. The Line MP Mama could not join us for unforeseen circumstances. Avoid wearing black suits, Mheshimiwa.
No, there's nothing wrong with the clothing.
All right, and coming up shortly, we're going to be joined by a relationships expert, that is Chris Hart, who is going to be talking to us. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Do you have something to say about this? Mheshimiwa and Martin Mutua, I know this is a very light topic, but then I'm sure Mheshimiwa would have something to say about this.
I'm sure I read his articles quite a bit once in a while, but relationship issues are very, very complex, especially in our society now. And every time, as I said, we are learning something new. How to relate, how to deal with those challenges that come, especially now with these, globalized societies that we are living in. Family support systems have changed. Previously, when you had certain issues, you'd run either to your grandmother or aunt, but those things are not there sometimes anymore. Nowadays, we have got the Twitters, we have got all these things. So we are looking forward to everyday learning on how to cope with each other.
Martin, two men are from Mars?
I think, I don't know in what context that has come about, but I tend to think I was born by my mother, and I don't know whether she was in Mars or Venus, but definitely, as you say, it depends with the generational change. You have different kind of situations occur, because during my time, the kind of situation and relationship, the way I relate with the opposite sex is different from the kind of generation my children and others who are coming up are relating to their own peers. So it's kind of, we are caught up in a warp of some sort. Right. And you do not know how to behave when you see your child behaving in a particular way, and yet you are not socialized in that particular way. So it's a whole mix. Maybe the relationship expert will tell us more.